coming through.
Yeah,
that's all.
I'm recording. Is this thing on? Is this thing on? I'm recording. Are there any glare in my glasses? Can you see any glare? Like, can you see yourself? Can you hear me? Is this too loud? Is this too loud? Is there any sound on? Cynthia fell down. Oh, there she's okay. All right. Well, welcome to FamilyWhyz. Routines that work. Oh, dang, it's not plugged in. Oh, you have a routine that works for your family? Welcome to FamilyWhyz. Oh, that's better.
Are you recording?
I am now, yeah.
I know. What if we had outtakes at the end of every one? So you know how you stay to watch the outtakes?
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
As members of FamilyWhyz, we are the village. We learn and we lean on the strengths of each other to implement the strategies that create successful children and connected families and bonded couples. But it hasn't always been this way, even though Jeff and Mary and I have thousands of hours of experience working with kids who really struggle, whether it's ADHD or oppositional defiance or really intense depression and anxiety or learning disabilities. We've been in your shoes. We know the stress of just that experience, that knowing that things at home are not going well. We know the guilt that can come when we're triggered as adults by our child's reactions or refusals, and we are anything but the parent or the teacher we envisioned that we wanted to be. And we do know the pain of watching family patterns repeat themselves over and over and not knowing how to change them. So story and strategy and support, these are the 3 pillars that we're going to walk you through today, and specifically how that relates to creating a family routine that does indeed work. So here's what you can expect. We're going to walk through the what, the why, and how of creating these kind of routines. So you're going to want to have with you something to write on, something to record the ideas that are popping into your head as you hear Jeff and Mary and me speak. Because at the end of this video and this time together, I want you to have a toolbox you can literally look at and say, this is what I'm going to try next.
Thank you, Cynthia. So when we're talking about routine, the first thing we want to look at as we're addressing our story is, first of all, what is our belief around routine? What is it that we grew up with? What was our experience with routine? For some people, it's, that routine is something that you just have to have. And for others, they resist it because it was forced upon them. And so whatever your experience or belief is around routine, it's important that you acknowledge what that is. That may or may not be in alignment with other people in your family as you come together to develop a routine. And so you need to know where you stand in that. And how vital is that to you? Is that something that you're willing to be open to looking at in a different way? Especially if the routines that you've had now aren't working. Take a moment and think about what is your belief about routine. And then ask yourself, what is it that you would like to see in the routines for your family? And by having routines, what will be the end result? So once you have that, you want to begin to look at what is the routine that I want to establish here? the key point is, what's the value of doing this routine, and what will it bring to us as a result? And this will create your story. If the routine is that I want to get my child in the habit of brushing their teeth twice a day, the value is so that they have healthy teeth. If you're just doing routines to do routines, it's very difficult to get other people, your children, your spouse, your partner, to agree with your value if you don't state what the value is. You also want to be clear on what are the expectations that I have around this. Are they realistic expectations? Am I taking into consideration other people's values? And being willing to be flexible in how I reach that outcome. Can it only be one way, or are you open to having different ways of reaching that outcome? And that moves us more into the strategies. And I'm going to turn that over to Jeff to talk about the strategies.
Mary, thank you. What our beliefs of routine are, our belief around routine, I feel is super important. You know, why should I only have 45 minutes of video game time? I love video games. Why should I get off at all? I've had that discussion many times with my son, and it's around, well, when we've tried having longer amounts than 45 minutes, when you get off, it seems like your behavior's not so awesome, you're upset, it seems like it takes you a really long time to come back to our family and to be present with us and have a good attitude. Or if you have video game time right up until bedtime, which we've tried because he wanted to test it. I want to test it, let's see how this works. Well, guess what? He had a really hard time falling asleep, and then the next morning wasn't so great. So our routine around video games is 45 minutes at a time. The steps that we're going to go through, we wanted to make as simple as possible. Mary, Cynthia, and I talked about this at length of all these ideas of all amazing routines and how do we shrink it down to just a few simple steps. And the first 3 steps are, what's the result that you want? I would love a child that when they get off video game time, comes back to family and it has a decent attitude. And I want him to have the reward that he's chosen, which is video game time. I'm not trying to say, don't ever play video games ever. I don't feel that that's necessarily realistic. So what's the result that we want is number 1. Number 2 is, are we honoring and identifying everyone's values? So number 2 is why? Why are we doing this in the first place? You know, a good value for me is it's not fun when we treat each other poorly. So when my son gets off of video game time, if he treats me in a negative way, that's not fun for anybody. So a value of mine is that we treat each other well. So that's one thing. One of his values is that he gets screen time, that he gets to choose to play the game that he wants to play. And that's important to him for his reward, for the fun that it has, for the connection that he has with the people he talks with online, for the adventurous building that he has in Minecraft, or whatever particular car racing game that he has. You know, it's adventurous for him. So those are his values. And the third step is, how are we going to do this? How? And we have to co-create this together. So we sat down and I said, hey, what would it be like if we had 0 video games, right? Let's start with that. Oh, no, that's not, of course, that's not among his values. That doesn't honor his values, and he's not going to say yes to that. And he goes, how about I just get unlimited video game time anytime that I want, right? That's, of course, up there into the spectrum. And that's not gonna work for me. What about everything else in your life? Schoolwork, other things that are important for us to do first, taking care of your dog. Your dog needs to be combed. You have chores, you know. But there does need to be buy-in from both sides. We're not going to get great response if we just unilaterally decide no video games forever. Or if we unilaterally decide something, there's no co-creative process going on there. So the other party is going to feel left out. They're not going to feel respected, which is a really important part of coming to a family conclusion, a family decision together. Your family may be different. You may be Amish and have nothing, no electricity in your entire house, and that's your right to choose that. You may think that video games aren't a good idea at all, and that's among your freedom to choose that among your family. Or you may think that 2 hours at a time of screen time is good for you and your family. And that's up to you. It's up to your family to decide. But for the sake of teaching here how to structure a simple family routine that gets what you want, that has everyone's buy-in, and that respects everyone's values, that's what we're speaking about. So the first step is, what is the result that I want? The second is why, honoring everyone's values. And the third step is how. How are we going to do this? What are the rules around it? And let's make it a co-creative process where we discuss this and come to a decision together. Once we decide, you're going to pick one simple thing to try at a time. Don't try to change more than one thing in routine at a time. It may be overwhelming for some families or some children, or you may get behavior and you're not sure which one of the changes in routine is causing the behavior, or that it's just too much change all at one time and it's overloading for your child depending on how much they can handle. So number one, what's the result I want? Number two, why is this important to our family? Number three, how can we get buy-in from everyone and make it a co-creative process? 4, give it a try. Give one thing a try at a time. And 5, come back to it and revisit it, maybe in a week, maybe in one day, to see how it works and discuss it again with your family.
So right now, why don't you take your pen or pencil or however you're recording your ideas and write down one result that you do want in your family. And if you want to just use one word to represent that, that's totally fine, a word or a sentence. And then after that, please write down, what value is this want honoring in your family? What are you upholding? And your next step after that is to actually sit down with your family and ask them, what's your idea on this? How would this work for you? Could we do this in a different way? And last, record your idea now of how you're going to get started on making this result occur.
So let me put this in perspective for you with an example. So if what you want is for your child to have a clean room, and your value is that, your belief and your value is that having a clean room, like cleanliness is next to godliness, you really value clean, that's your value. And then a step that you might take towards that is every Saturday morning we pick up toys. So that's just an idea to get started. Now, when you take this to your child or your family gathering, your family meeting, to talk about, here's what I would like to see. I would like to see that your room gets cleaned up. Let your child know what your value is. The reason I want your room cleaned up is because it's healthier, it keeps the rats away, it keeps the bugs out, whatever your reason is. And then you want to ask your child, so what do you think a clean room is? What does that mean to you? And when you're doing this value information from other people, you want to do it from a place of honoring. Most kids don't get a value around cleaning their room, other than the ones who just really like a lot of order. There are some kids who really thrive on putting things in order. I had a daughter who did that. She just put everything in her room was always in a row, in a line, and in order. And that made her feel safe and secure. My other son, no. Piles of clothes everywhere, no order, and he was comfortable in that, and he could find everything. So being willing to look into, what does my child value and what makes him feel or her feel safe and what would work best for them. And then what can we also do that honors my value? So as I work with families in this situation, it's how willing am I to allow them to have a space that they create, their room that they can have in whatever way they'd like. And if there's certain boundaries that you want, like there's no food in there so it doesn't attract bugs or mold or whatever, you can do that because that's what's going to work best for you. But you're willing to acknowledge their value. And one of those statements you can really say is, I see or I get that you feel more comfortable when your room is like blank, orderly, disorderly, whatever that is, without any judgment. I get it. And I prefer that my room be clean and the bed's made and everything's picked up. And there you've made the distinction and you've honored each of you. And now what can we do to come together to create a routine that works for all of us? And so maybe that's our common family room is a place where you can play, but when you're done playing, this is what will happen because this belongs to everybody. But know that in your room, you get this space.
Thank you.
So Mary, let's say that you have, I don't know, a 13-year-old that that doesn't hold the same values as you, right? And there is a white plate with 2-week-old orange rinds. Not me. Not me. Not right now in my son's room. But let's just say that there's a white plate with 2-week-old orange rinds on it, and it's not among his value to clean that up. And you've asked him, and you've asked and over, and you start to feel like, man, I'm nagging about this now. And we discussed, hey, at least once a week you're going to clean out the dishes in your room. So how would you handle that situation?
So that's where you come back and you revisit. Okay, so we're going to revisit. And, you know, when we talked about the room being clean, and this is really a great point, though, that you bring up, because if you're not clear on what you mean by having a clean room or what you will allow and what you won't allow, then anything is fair game, right? But if you specifically said there won't be any food in your room, all food is eaten at the kitchen table, and have we agreed to that? And we've agreed, and that's what we're going to do. But then you find the orange rinds in the room, then it's like, excuse me, son, was it our agreement that there wouldn't be food in the room? Yeah, there was. Yeah.
Do you know my son? Okay.
I've had sons. Then it's like, well, what is that about? What, you know, you're dishonoring my value of having food in your room. And do you remember why I didn't want food in the room? Yeah, because it attracts bugs and mice and all of that stuff. Okay. Like, what are you going to do about this? Tell me what the value is to you to have food in the room. Well, it makes it easier. I can watch games and play. Oh, I understand that. I get that that would be a lot easier for you. However, in this circumstance, this is one place where I can't bend. And so this is the one rule that I want you to honor, because that doesn't work for me, because there's lots of other repercussions about it that you're not responsible for, but I am. Is there something else we can come to agreement about this? And there are some places where it's you are the parent, you are the homeowner, you are the one who has ultimate responsibility over the things that happen. And so you have to put your foot down sometimes and just say, that doesn't work for me. But it's about you, it's not about them. It's not like, oh, well, you're such a slob and, you know, that's really going to ruin your future and you're never going to be any good. That's different. That's really attacking them rather than saying, that doesn't work for me.
Mary, as you talk, I'm picturing what you're saying in my mind, and I'm like imagining that experience. And I think about the world of teaching and how much a lot of times in specialized programs and specialized teaching methods, we talk about scaffolding. And let's say we want a kid to be at level 3 of responsibility of honoring our request, and it seems pretty reasonable. And I'm wondering if there's like 2 steps below that we could go. So if we're creating a routine, we actually start from here, and then we go here, and then we're here.
Yeah, and I wonder if that doesn't come through in the revisiting part of, okay, this didn't work going to this level, so what do we need to adjust to maybe get there? Maybe we jumped too fast too soon. Then it's like, okay, let's revisit this, and maybe we need to take it down a notch, or we need to look at a different possibility of how to do it. So that flexibility of always being able to do that, I think, is really important, because things don't always work the first time. And even if they did work for a while, then they may stop working, because things are always in constant change and flux. And so we want to train our kids to be able to adjust and move through changes. And so it's like, we gave that a good try. Now let's see what else we can do. What's the next step or the next level?
Well, let's say that you want your son or daughter to all of a sudden take care of everything in the morning on their own. Like, get up on your own, set the alarm on your own, make your own lunch, make your own breakfast, right? And maybe they're old enough where that's reasonable, but you haven't set any expectations along the way. They're not doing any of that on their own, maybe. So that's an example, right, of where we might ask them to do all of the morning, everything in the morning, and we have to scale it up according to their maturity level, their ability, their age, that kind of thing.
Which is a good point. And you stressed that in the beginning too, to try to just make one change at a time rather than the whole thing.
So let me ask both of you what your thoughts are around rewards and punishments around, say, failing to do a particular routine. So you've set a routine of picking up your room, and you've tried this is my value, I need to put my foot down around this, and say that the child is still, I forgot, or I'll do it later, and it never happens, and you're feeling like, okay, now how do we handle the situation? Do you believe in things like taking away privileges? Do you believe in them earning points to earn up the privileges? That kind of a thing? What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's going to vary from child to child. Some kids really buy into the point system of earning things. My overall belief, though, is to get to the root of what's really going on. And I have seen with parents who truly acknowledge what's going on with their kids, like if it is that I forgot, and that your child really has trouble focusing and remembering to do things, it's like, oh, I understand that you forgot. What can we put in place to help you remember? What ideas do you have? So not jumping to the conclusion that they're just dishonoring you by not doing what you've asked, but by really asking what's really behind this, that they're not able to do it. I'm not a proponent of taking things away from kids. I've done that before, and it's never worked. It's only made the kids feel worse, like it buys into some belief they have about themselves that they're not worthy of anything. And I don't know that in a family team that you always have to earn everything. You just show up and be who you are, but it's about knowing who each person is and what they bring and what are their strengths and what are their weaknesses and how can we support each other in our weaknesses. So if focus is not a strong point, how can we support each other and how can we help with that, rather than punishing them for something that's a weakness?
I wonder if it has a lot to do with the core value, the core motivation that is driving the child's behavior. For example, there was a girl on my caseload, 6th grader, who, no matter how many times I would snap at her or give a consequence about her chit-chatting with people next to her, it didn't make any difference. And in fact, every time I kind of had a consequence for that, and she and I actually did a values exercise together, and one of her core values is to feel and to be connected. And so she was acting, everything she was doing was acting directly from that. I want to be connected. I want to be connected. I want to be connected. When I started valuing how much connection was important to her and how much she needed that, we could start a dialogue. And they're starting to move forward. And now with her, of course, it's kind of going to be a long process of how you find connection, even when you're having to do the routines and expectations that's needed. But that changed our dynamic profusely, and it helped me stop be so triggered myself when I interacted with her, because I'm someone who values being like a hard worker and following the rules and doing what's expected. And so every time she didn't, I got really snappy with her. And that reminds me too of how much of that is a reflection of ourselves, of things that we've either experienced in the past or that we're afraid of in ourselves in the present. There are a lot of ways to work on that with ourselves while still holding other people accountable in our lives.
And what I like about our 3-step process is there's not one thing that fits everybody. You get to create this the way that works for you. It's not that it has to be any one way. As long as you're honoring each other's value and coming to some kind of agreement where we'll try this and we'll see how that works, and then we'll come back and visit it, and we'll honor each other in a place of, this isn't working for me, I wonder what else we can come up with. Or I see that this is working really well. Congratulations on coming to a resolution. And again, we can honor and acknowledge each other in that way. So you can take any routine and put it into this 3-step process, work together and come to some kind of resolution that will work for your family. And yes, it can be that easy. That was good.
From us with a huge tool that they can use immediately when they get home or the next day with their family. And
a huge tool. Huge tool.
That might help some situations. You never know.
We always want tools. We don't want any small ones.
There, I did it now. Very nice. I said something brilliant and you didn't get it. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's Ted.
Family routines that work. Are you having trouble with your child? Welcome to FamilyWhyz. Oh.
All my books. Look at the books.
Highly intelligent.
Yeah. I must know what I'm speaking about. I have so many books. Just looking at my book collection. There's a gargoyle right here. Did you see? It's an effing gargoyle right there. And he's reading a book. This is all marketing. It's branding.
Wait. Does anyone see my glasses? Where did I put my glasses? Oh man. I think I just spit on that last one. There's like spittle flying.
Well, you're free to go. You are free to go. All right? And meditate before you medicate. For sure. I'm out. I'm out.
Oh my God.